Today we're talking about a hot topic because it is hurricane season in Florida. When we're talking about Florida insurance, we're talking about myths about hurricanes and all that stuff, and where the market is these days, pricing, what to do, what AI is doing for the insurance market. Spoiler alert. Hey, welcome everybody to the weekly edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man that I affectionately like to call GC, because he's got the genius concepts, knows how to generate cash flow, is a great co-host, and because his name is Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be with you.
And returning to the show, a local legend, both in Jacksonville, in the Not Your Average Investor community, and on Peloton screens everywhere. She is the original Flo from Progressive, the founder and CEO of Ricci Insurance, the super connector of super connectors that I know. Whitney Ricci, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Wow. I think I'm gonna record that and play that for myself in the morning, as an affirmation as I go start the
Before
day.
or after the Peloton class?
I think before.
Be last week.
I'll be like, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am, and then I'll play that. I'll go through all the things.
Whitney, first question, why are you so popular?
Listen, everybody always talks about how it's so funny that I'm the insurance agent and yet the fun one. And I love that little juxtaposition. Don't put me in a box. Don't put me in a box.
You don't go in the box. But speaking of which, insurance, what's up?
So many good things.
All right.
So many good things.
So I think the reason why,
a good news podcast.
Yeah.
All about insurance.
That's right.
I've been waiting for this moment. Pull the tape. What did you put me in the meter? Holly freaking Luya, I said, and you put it on a loop. Holly freaking Luya.
Yeah.
Yes, this is exactly what we were saying. And not to go all out of order here, but the big problem, the root of it was all of the lawsuit abuse that we had in Florida. It was unprecedented. It was in Florida. It was not all over the rest of the country. And we got that world-changing tort reform to fix it. We gave it time to work, and this is when you need to cut this and edit it. And let me skip to the good part. And here we are.
And here we are. Okay.
I know you're going to hit us with some great content. What do you say about the facts? A GC joke
Breaking
about
news?
him having the stats he's going to hit us with. Okay, we'll think on it. We'll come back. Gosh, you guys.
Okay. All right. So that was a lot. That was a lot. It says Greg's mic is off.
All right. Well, fantastic. I'll go fix that. You stay here.
Let me double check.
Okay, and so it's the Whitney show. Okay.
It's the Whitney show.
It's on.
All right. Well.
Okay. So insurance is breaking the backs of low risk policy holders is at our Ventura. All right. So let's get into what's happened, right?
Yes.
You just kind of went through it in a ferocious.
Assuming you've been here for the play-by-play all this time.
Yeah. So the good news is there's good news about insurance.
Yes.
We went through an elongated period of really rising rates.
Yes.
You came on the show about 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
You said this stops now. It's going to get better news. Give us the behind the scenes of what was happening then and where are we now?
Yes. So what was happening, and I'm going to try and keep this brief because I could talk for an hour about this, but what was happening if we rewind back to the 2020, 2019, 2021 era, we had a couple of court cases that inadvertently created, in essence, a loophole that allowed it to be very easy and very lucrative to sue insurance companies to get, most common example, a free roof. Your roof is old, it had to do with concurrent cause of losses, it had to do with fee multipliers for attorneys, and it resulted in these loopholes, which led to the numbers being, I saw you printed it out right here, 9% of claims in the United States and 79% of the lawsuits. That is insane. That is in the state of Florida. That is a crazy, crazy broken system. Florida contributed to 9% of the claims and 79% of the lawsuits. So that also resulted in, and I lived it, about a dozen carriers going into receivership in 2022. So what that looks like, it was an absurd thing to look back at and realize that our team had an SOP for when an insurance company goes into receivership. That is nuts. And so we had hundreds of thousands of Floridians losing their coverage during hurricane season. Those that weren't being dropped and being in all this craziness were getting rate increases. doubling, tripling. I mean, we had my own insurance went from over a 5-year period, about $7 or $8 or $100-ish up to about $11,000.
Wow.
And I do not live in the Taj Mahal. So like crazy stuff like this. And then because of certain nuances, if you've had a claim or your roof's a certain age, you had very few options to be able to leave and find anything else. So why this was a huge problem, because I mean, the obvious, Florida property owners, homeowners are paying way too much in insurance and having fewer options. The carriers didn't want to grow. We have no competition. There's just no reason for them to try and charge less. So the reason why this was like a huge problem is we're in Florida. Our companies know how to underwrite for things like hurricanes. They know that. They're very good at that. They know how to underwrite for fire. They know how to underwrite for water and how to charge the appropriate premium. But all of a sudden, we have this whole new risk, and that was the risk of litigation. And it was a huge risk. So when you saw carriers doing insane things like, we will only insure roofs that are newer than 7 years old, or you have a 3-year-old roof that has a patch in it from where a tree fell and like punctured it. And by the way, a patch is a very appropriate solution for this much damage to it, right? And the carriers would say, sorry, we will not insure that roof with a small patch. It wasn't because there's anything wrong with that roof, like it's going to leak. It's that it made that home a target for a door knocking roofer to come and feed that lead to an attorney. And the system, again, the risk they're insuring against was the risk of litigation and so much lawsuit abuse. So it had to get that bad for our leaders to call an emergency legislative session. And after, I mean, I will say it took them 4 or 5 times to get it right and to get the big bad bill passed that really will probably be a case study for many years to come of how the stars had to align for all these decision makers with the points of them having the most political power that they had, and they used it on getting this tort reform passed. So what this tort reform did, it in essence closed the loopholes. So the whole thing that insurance companies were so scared to do business in Florida, they're not taking any new business, they're raising rates to have to insure against this fear of litigation is gone. It's been completely removed. So since then we have, and I'm not sure if you were planning on sharing these stats, Greg.
I was just getting familiar ahead of time. So your stats are better than mine.
And my stats actually are better than yours because yours are slightly outdated and mine are better. So when I played it in mine, you were gonna say
This is not make good TV, Whit.
Listen. You just like went over there to fix the microphone or something. You were going to say 19 insurers approved rate and premium rate reductions, but it's actually the most current information is 29 carriers have gotten approved rate reductions.
Wait,
you were going to say,
hold on. Let's just say it again.
Yeah.
Impressive, but rate
reductions,
Yes.
rate
In
reductions.
2025.
Yes.
29 insurers
In Florida.
have
Since January of 2024 have filed for insurance premium reductions.
Okay.
Yes.
What is an insurer? Is a company that provides the insurance?
Yes. So
I didn't know there was 29 insurers in Florida.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
And we have to be able to work with many of them because that's the whole value of an independent agent, because insurance isn't a one size fits all.
Got it.
So we need the ones that will accept a flat roof. We need the ones that are really competitive for new construction. We need the ones that are really competitive for coastal or older homes or whatever the case may be. 44 carriers filed for no change, flat rate, and 15 new carriers since January of 2024 have filed to enter the state of Florida, which that to me is the biggest. That means that Florida is now a positive place where insurance companies are no longer fearful that they're going to go into receivership, that they're going to be forced out of business because they can't make any money.
Right.
And we had, to give you some more stats here, there were 8 straight years of underwriting losses for the Florida property insurance market, 2016 to 2023, till we got this tort reform passed. And now finally they've returned to profit. So big picture, we need competition. That's what the Florida homeowners, people that invest in Florida, that's what they need. They need carriers that want to do business in Florida and are going to actually be competing for their business. So in addition to like these stats on a spreadsheet that we can read off, what we're seeing in the day-to-day is, we'll come up across a renewal that maybe we had to place because the roof was just a little older and we had to place it with a Lloyd's of London type carrier because that was the only person that would, or the only carrier that would take them last year. We look at that again this year and we're like, do they still have to be with an excess and surplus lines carrier? And we'll rerun it and we might have 6 or 7 standard carriers that are now willing to return a rate. Where last year in our software, it would be like, nope, 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 nope.
Right.
We're also seeing this is a little bit less important for your community that invests here in Jacksonville, but across the whole state, we're also seeing many zip codes that are opening up. For many years, the majority of carriers were closed in Tri-County, closed in Solo, and the Orlando area they had even fewer options than we have here.
Mhm.
So what we're seeing in my book of business up here in Northeast Florida, the majority of our policies are having modest rate decreases. We are still having some that are having a rate increase. And it's usually, remember these things, it's an average, right? So we may have my property on Daybreak. It went down by about $500 a year. I sent it to you. What was it, like 2,300 to 1,800?
Yeah.
I was like, look, Greg,
Yeah.
proof's here, highlighted, this is mine, exact full
awesome.
coverage, nothing has changed there.
Yeah.
But we're also seeing things, you may have a home that went up a little bit because it was qualifying for a brand new discount, and that is now the home's 5 years old or whatever.
Understood.
Those things are all kind of blended in there. You also may see, I want to point out, coverage amounts are still they're increasing just with inflation.
Okay.
So you may have a situation where your bottom line premium may be a small amount higher, but the carrier filed for flat rate, but you're paying a little bit more because you're getting a little bit more coverage.
Yeah.
Maybe your replacement cost was $280,000 last year, and now it's $300,000 this year. So instead of paying $800, you might be paying $850 or
Yeah.
something like that.
So if you strip away maybe like the incentive right off the bat, you strip away any incentives they have to like keep the rates low just because it was a new policy. And if you strip
Yeah.
away like what the net amount of coverage you have, overwhelmingly you're seeing rate decreases
Yes.
rather than rate
Yeah.
increases.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, this is probably a little bit of an overshare. This is going to go on the internet. Well,
Nobody's
you know
paying
me,
attention anyways.
transparent to the point of being tacky, but whatever, I'm just going to say this. We received an award that we were quite proud of last year from a carrier for having the #1 top retention in their whole company.
Mhm.
And with that same carrier, from beginning of the year to now, we've written hundreds of policies, and our book of business, we measure it by premium size, is considerably lower because of the rate decreases. So
Oh.
it's something that we're actually like
Interesting.
budgeting more.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, it's a correction. This is exactly what you worked for. This is exactly what your
Gotcha.
policies, what your clients need.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wait a minute, how is this math making sense? How do we have all this growth? How do we have award-winning retention and our book of business is still shrinking?
Interesting.
And so, and that is because for the first time, we're seeing the rate increases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's
it's really
really interesting. Yeah.
Because and when it's on our show or when I'm doing speaking opportunities outside of the Not Your Average Investor show, one of the first questions and first topics we talk about is insurance. And in the minds of the everyday person who reads articles and hears from others, they think it's the first time that I've actually really heard this, that a reason to not buy a rental property is because of insurance in Florida. And they specifically will talk about things like rates going up, rates not being stable. I don't know if I buy this property today and I get insurance today, I can get insurance tomorrow.
Right.
So some of these stats I think are really eye-opening. But, I wanted to ask you, I have no context for like how many new insurance providers come into the state each year. So when you say 15 new carriers are coming into the state this year, is that like, what's a normal amount for a number of carriers to come into the state?
Negative number.
Recently, right?
Oh, yeah, but for real.
Really?
I mean, so since I've been an insurance agent for almost 2 decades, and usually the trend that we hear, and it's, national news, more and more carriers leaving Florida. So this is such positive news of them coming back. I mean, it had been years, I think, somebody's gonna have to fact check me on this, but I think that it had been years before we had carriers file to want to come into the state.
Wow.
Now, I do want to talk, Pablo and I were having a little chat in advance when I mentioned that to him about those 15 carriers, because while the fact of that is so exciting and it is proof positive that the system is working, there's also like the human aspect of that, because we are only a couple years removed from carriers going into receivership. So a prudent person might be like, well, who is this company? Like, have they ever even been through a hurricane? Do they know what they're
Sure.
doing? Who's
Great
going to pay
question.
my claim? So of those 15, a lot of them are actually sister companies of existing established companies. So that makes us feel a lot more comfortable working with them. In many cases, it will be our same underwriter that writes with the one company is now also underwriting at the sister company and the exact same claims department. So that gives us a lot of confidence. A lot of the other ones have really, really mature, experienced industry leaders at their helm. And they're kind of cutting their teeth by taking a portion of the Citizens book of business and it's called a takeout, but it's basically transferring policies out of Citizens. And so for us, like that's a really great way for us to get to know them. We have a small portion of our book of business with Citizens, which is the insurer of last resort. You can't get approved anywhere else. You kind of have to go to Citizens. So for us, like, yeah, new carrier, come in and see on our clients that didn't have any other options, like, can you be a better option for them? And then that's where we start to establish the trust. And like see them pay a claim, see them, not just at the time when you write a policy, what are they going to be like as a partner? And over time, that's how trust grows and we'll deepen those relationships and write more business if they pass the tests.
Yeah.
And speaking of passing the tests, I tell you, being an agent in this market is so much more fun.
Oh, yeah?
Because there's like the shift in power is back to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
So, it used to be carriers would want you to sell their product. And so you are a good agent if you sell their product. Well, then when the market got turned on its head, they didn't want you to sell their product.
Oh, God.
And so we're like, what? Well, what now? We need your product. Our client needs coverage. And so everything was an exception and it got really wonky there. But a very positive lingering thing that came out of that is it forced space for agents and carriers to redefine what partnership looks like based on things other than sales and production. So now we remember and they remember who was there for who when times were really hard, who really showed up as a partner. And now that we're back into this softer market and there's more competition, it's not just about like they know we're not forced to sell them just because they're the only ones that are open.
Gotcha.
So it's not just price, it's also customer service. It's also, when you have a claim, if there's an issue, I need to know if I have to get on the bat phone that somebody's going to answer. I just had a thing actually for somebody that works with you. Something dumb. Look, insurance companies still do some dumb things sometimes. Okay. They still do some dumb things. That's why I need to know that somebody's going to answer the bat phone. Yeah. But we had somebody set up, they had like a teensy tiny claim. And the client wanted a really comprehensive policy contract. And the carrier said they could have the more basic contract, but they couldn't have the super, super comprehensive one because of their tiny claim. And I was able to, over a text message, send it to a high-level decision maker who within an hour texted me back, the cancellation has been rescinded. You don't have to rewrite this policy. So that comes from relationships.
I think the relationship and the value of having you serve our clients for so many years, you serving me personally from an insurance perspective, that relationship has always been at the forefront of why we work together. But over the last few years, everything else has been making the headlines. Cost, no insurance. You have been really having to fight those major battles while still delivering that customer service. What should a turnkey rental property investor, or maybe even just a regular rental property investor, expect as far as relationship beyond just the price of the insurance? What should they expect from their insurance provider?
So for me, the answer to this question became the biggest when the market got the worst. And I was like, okay, so where am I going to make the most impact? I can get down in the trenches with my team, which, look, when we had 200 policyholders getting canceled in 30 days, that's exactly what I had to do because it was all hands on deck.
Right.
But, barring those real extreme examples, it's like, okay, I can help the team try and reshop this endless list of, do we have a better option for these clients when we're having these unprecedented rate increases, or I can get involved in the solution. And it's the first time that I got outside of my comfort zone and started talking about politics in public, got myself a couple trolls. Which made me chuckle a little bit. I'm like, in no universe in real life is that guy saying that to me. No chance. No chance. Rich was even like, he said what? And I was like, all right, calm down. This is like somebody behind a keyboard. But anyway, people choose where they spend their money, who they're going to support. And so when you look at like providing the best for them, like being involved in our community and getting involved in these legislative efforts. And I went over to Tallahassee with spreadsheets.
Yeah.
One of them, we had a full separate breakout because we monitor your clients. We have it like flagged in our system because we can use that as leverage to like get some special underwriting concessions and things like that. So I happen to have a list of like all your policies and what they'd been paying and what they're now paying and how many claims they're filing to be able to show like, this is nonsense.
That's
like
cool.
This is outrageous that they're doing this. And my team, I didn't expect this part of it, but my team is so proud that we did that. And they love when people would complain about that, saying, well, let me tell you what my boss is doing about it. So I would just say that. I mean, the prices are going to fluctuate. We're committed to making sure we have the relationships with partners that we trust, that are going to be there for you when you have a claim. Of course, we're going to try and get the best value and have competitive prices and stuff like that, but it's not just about price.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. What I hear is we went from a period, the reason why folks have had these experiences and why when we travel the country, people are like, you invest in Florida? Is because we had a loophole that was happening that insurance couldn't prepare for. So they had to reprice everything. It was a terrible scenario. There was the fixing of the loophole, which was through political activism, showing our elected officials that we needed to do it. It was fixed about 3 years ago or so. You came on the show. You predicted that things were going to get better. Things are clearly getting better. More competition, better pricing, better service is all happening in Florida. And this advice of insurance rates in Florida are out of control is officially outdated. Is essentially my takeaway from
last year, 2024. We had the lowest rate increases on property insurance in the country. I think it was 1%. Gregg Cohen, oh, sorry.
Yeah. You stealing on that one. I wrote it down for my prep. I was like, is that real? Florida had the lowest average homeowners insurance rate increase in 2024.
Listen, it's a market correction. Before that, we had this crazy, right.
Well, we're trying to answer.
You do not need to be fearful of it.
Right.
And I can speak a little more to this because as part of my client and industry advocacy work, I serve on right now, I'm serving on the National Council. I'm the vice president for Liberty Mutual for the Agent Advisory Council. So that puts me in the room with agents from all over the country. And it's like adult student council, you guys. We get together and we talk about, and Liberty Mutual is so wonderful. They really want the feedback. I mean, I can't get into the specifics because of the NDAs and stuff, but I mean, they really listen. And we sit in a hotel conference room and we go through like, what are all the problems? How are we going to fix it? And for many years, it was a joke, like, sit down, Florida, get out of here, problem child. I'm serious. And then now the last 2 years, I've been like, hang in there, guys. I'm speaking to you from the future because we're already on the way out of this hard market cycle. And the rest of the country is in it. They're finally starting to tiptoe out, but they hit the hard market cycle. Yeah. So
what do you mean? From like the same type of legal perspective, the legal loopholes are coming potentially to other parts of the country?
So we had an extreme version in Florida because of those 2 court cases. And to give you a little bit more context, I mentioned the thing about concurrent cause of loss. I mentioned the thing about the roofs. Well, the other thing that happened to like exacerbate the situation is in the state of Florida, we had all of these neighborhoods that were built in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
And 2020 was also the last year that you could file a claim for Hurricane Irma. And it was also because of COVID when entire neighborhoods of people were at home to answer the door knocking roofer. So it was like you couldn't anticipate like this crazy like thing of this happening this way. So outside of Florida, they do have lawsuit abuse challenges nowhere near what we faced, but it is a challenge. They also have the inflation issues, supply chain shortages. We've heard about that, like that affects other areas, and then the reinsurance challenges. We felt that sooner because our problems were worse. And now that we've gotten to the other side of it, we're getting some relief there. But we had the first wave of relief that we got was from the lawsuit abuse, tort reform, that getting fixed. And then we still had about a year of overlap where we were dealing with the reinsurance cost issues because that works on a tail. They were like, okay, let's see. Show me, the reinsurance carriers are like, show me that your tort reform is actually working. And then for next year, we'll be willing to renegotiate your rates. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So there are a lot of articles out there about who would have thought that Florida would be the blueprint of how to fix the insurance market. But that is where we are. And now I go in there and I'm again in these national council meetings, I'm going in October up to Boston. And I'm like hang in there, guys. It's going to get good. Just hang in there. Everything is cyclical. You're going to come out of this. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I was very dramatic. When I was like the sit down Florida person too. I was like, no, I'm standing up for Florida. And they're like, I don't know why you're wasting your breath. It was not our year then, but yeah, now we're back.
Yes.
Amazing. All right. So we already have 6 questions in the Q&A. So if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. We're going to get to them. we were just talking about kind of like these like myths of kind of this past perception
Mhm.
from Florida being the problem child to now you just made it official. Florida is now the poster child for a well-functioning, well-priced out market. Something that is definitely coming now is we're at the beginning of hurricane season,
Mhm.
right? So let's talk a little bit about hurricane season and how to think about that when it comes to insurance for so many of our community that
Yeah.
invest from out of state.
So thank you for bringing that up because let's look at this timeline, okay?
Mhm.
We talked about years and years and years and years of billions of dollars of underwriting losses and then returning to profit. We've had hurricanes the
Right.
last couple of years, guys.
Yeah.
We've had hurricanes, but because of tort reform, we did not have these crazy rate increases because
Yeah.
the insurance companies plan for and underwrite that they're going to have hurricane losses. So it is just part of being in Florida. We do have wonderful building codes.
Mhm.
That's why you'll see that the damage in Florida, especially on newer construction homes, things that have been built like 2001 and newer especially, have certain features of the home that I call like the three little pigs rule, like the huff and the puff and the homes are still there.
Yeah.
So that helps us out quite a bit. And, to give a nod to JWB, it's not just when the storm happens, the damage, it's the follow-up.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was working in the building and I was telling you this, I was like, it was almost like a threat. It was like, you will take our calls. We will be first on your list
Yeah.
every time, or you will not get all these other jobs, the whole rest of the year. So I know for our team, because sometimes we hear it from you first, sometimes the clients will call us first when they have the claim. I hate to say we're so happy when it's a JWB client. We're not happy that it's a JWB client, but when we have a client that has a claim, we're so glad that they have JWB Property Management,
Mhm.
who we know is going to be all over it, who we know is not going to try and turn this into like the jackpot to extort the insurance company. You have a very clear, let's go. You have a very clear aligned goal with let's get this home inhabitable back to pre-loss condition, up to rental standard, and disrupt as few people as possible and keep this investment cash flowing as we intended it to be.
100%. Yeah. It's interesting. Right before our conversation here, I reviewed our hurricane emergency preparedness plan. I went through and this is something that we do internally every year. And we sit down with all 135 people on the team. We say, all right, guys, it's about to be hurricane season. Here's what we can control internally to make sure that we're performing for our clients. We already have wonderful insurance in place. We already have wonderful vendor relationships in place, but there's a lot that we can control internally to deliver on the promise of a passive investing experience for somebody who might live in California or New York and might not be aware of what it really is like to go through a hurricane. And it is everything from the major things like making sure that our vendors understand that JWB clients come first.
Yes.
And it comes from doing $5 to $8 million worth of construction every single month. Those same vendors receive that incredible amount of business for years and years and years now. And that's a part of that amount of business is when we need you, when there's a hurricane, JWB clients are going to come first. I know you both have experienced that firsthand.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
What are you talking about? We never need maintenance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So
like all the
it
time.
really matters. It really matters. And then it's even the small things. I was reviewing the plan ahead of time. We sit down with the team. We say, okay, when a storm comes, it may not be a hurricane, but when a storm comes and we need to be able to serve our clients remotely, we might not be able to come to the office that day. Take your laptop charger home. Have your phone headset ready to go at home.
Yeah.
Just the simple things that you might not think of so that when you have a workforce of 135
Right.
and a storm comes with 3 hours notice, we can be there to serve everybody the next day. So it is the big things, it's the small things, and ultimately it's delivering on that promise of being passive.
We tell our team, it's funny, boiled down to the most simple steps, our agency's hurricane preparedness plan is get to safety, get to Wi-Fi.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing. We need it, for it to be go time. And I also say, we come in, we do educational things during hurricane season with a lot of local organizations, but JWB, I think 10 years in a row, we come in and it's funny, some of your, I don't want to say your old timers, but your folks that have been on the team a long time, they know the spiel.
Yeah.
And we go in and we do these are the most frequently asked questions and we'll do quizzes like the neighbor's tree falls on your resident's car. What insurance applies? By the way, it's the car. Whatever the tree falls on, the insurance for that thing is what pays out, assuming that the tree was alive. So you need to come, Greg.
I need to. Let me know.
We'll send you on the e-bite next time. But they do. They bring the property management team and the portfolio managers all show up, and we have little prizes. And Scarlett came this year, the intern there. If she's still on.
Scarlett's here. Pop-up's here, by the way. He said hi
That's my
way
dad.
before you started talking. So it's
He's
been a while.
probably texting me, slow down. You're talking way too fast.
So if I was to summarize this last piece, right? Hurricanes is what Floridians know how to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's being prepared is kind of like the piece of it. Florida insurance companies know how to price for hurricanes. They have not gone out of business or anything because of hurricanes. They've been adequately pricing that risk for as long as we have been in business.
Yeah, and they're getting better and better at it. Like
Yeah.
this is an area where AI has been great.
Let me summarize first. and
Okay,
I'll
sorry.
get to it,
Okay, sorry.
Right. So like,
Sorry, I got excited.
So that's happening. Having coverage is one thing, having relationships is another. Back to the beginning of the conversation. And really it's working with providers, whether it's the insurance provider or the property management provider that understands to invest in these relationships, because it's when everybody needs your help that people prioritize relationships. You've done it through being there during the hard times for these carriers when they were doing it. You guys do it by being the #1 buyer of construction services in Duval County at your scale, right? Like
Maybe,
one of
yeah.
them, right? Like
Yeah.
you guys are up there. You guys spend $7 million a month in construction costs. So everybody wants a piece of that. And therefore you require people to be there on time. And then the rest is just being ready, whether it's your team being ready to go, your team being prepared and ready to go. That is what creates the passive experience during hurricane. And stuff happens, but it'll get fixed when you have this combination of things.
Well said.
Yes.
That being said, AI.
Now I can talk about AI.
Now you can talk about AI. What is happening with AI and hurricane preparedness?
I mean, it's not just AI, but the technology is just getting so much better that it's really allowing carriers to close claims more quickly. One small thing that is made such a big difference: when a storm is approaching an area, they'll push out like text messages that says, hey, we see you own a property in 32217. If you are affected by the storm, this is where you will click to file your claim. And boom, just like that, we don't have any of those clients on hold for hours waiting for a human to answer and ask them the questions that they would have just been fine putting into a portal on their phone. That's been great. AI has allowed a faster review of estimates for damage that's been done, which has been wonderful. That allows them to get through more claims more quickly. There's all kinds of stuff with aerial imagery that's being provided, from like pre-season photos of everything, like the whole city, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And then sending in drones and things after the storm. I heard a lot about this stuff from National Council, from other agents and other carriers, because some of the national carriers have a little bit more of this than the Florida regional carriers do. So that means it's coming. It means we're going to have it real soon. But they would hear in some cases about the damage to their home from their insurance carrier before they were even able to get back in, when they've been evacuated. Yeah, right? It's amazing. It's really cool. And when I talk about, I love so much that this shift in the market has put the consumer and we, the independent agent, back in the power position to be like, if we're going to spend our premium dollars with you, what are you doing to work for them? Right?
Interesting.
So they're just really taking that and getting better and better. And they know it too. Like I've got somebody in my office every single day from a carrier talking about, well, how can, we love what you guys are doing out there. How can we do more business with Ricci Insurance Group? How can we do more business with you guys? And that's all positive things. So like, this is truly like a podcast about insurance.
That's all
good
news.
news.
It's all good.
It's all good news.
But I was just trying to think, like, I don't remember when ChatGPT like came out, but like I'm trying to think of like, what did I think about AI a year, like the last hurricane season? Like, is there really like a pre-AI hurricane like experience that people went through, and now post AI? Like, do you think it's gonna be that different if somebody is to go through a major storm?
I just think it's going to be so much faster.
Yeah.
So I have a client who's also a friend who was, he's our client, but the person that hit him was their fault. They have Progressive. We work with Progressive too. So I've been a little bit more involved than I normally would be. He's got a really nice car. So I was a little worried too I was like, keep me posted on how everything's going. So it was like he got in the accident on like a Monday. He filed the claim like on Tuesday morning when he got home and got himself and by Tuesday, the end of the day, the money was already in his account. Like, it was like that fast. He was able to upload. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, granted, he may take it into the shop. They may uncover additional damage and they need to fight, which is like all very normal.
Right.
But the carriers are really incentivized to keep policyholders happy
Yeah.
so that
It's a
they
recurring,
can.
it's a
Right.
recurring revenue business, right? It's all
Right.
about lifetime value of
Right.
the client.
So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And again, and sorry, Progressive, but his insurance is not with Progressive. We have him with another carrier, but it still makes me feel good as an agent that works with Progressive to hear that Progressive is taking good care of my client.
Yeah. Wow. I never really thought about that.
So that's been the big thing that we're seeing with AI in my industry so far
Mhm.
is the same things are just being done so much more quickly.
Yeah.
One adjuster can get through so many more files
Mhm.
when they're not like just emailing back and forth and
Interesting.
kind of thing.
You know, what I'm hearing is something that I'm seeing with AI. Like it's like speed is part of speed and capacity is kind of like what
Mhm.
AI is bringing to so many businesses. But
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, the story behind the story, which is where I think the world is going with AI, is that AI is actually making businesses more human, right? Like everything that we're talking about right now is allowing people to be served better,
Mhm.
to rely on these like relationships and these things that you have because you're not doing the busy work, right? Like all these payment processes, things that are now being done overnight, you used to take a person
Right.
to be like over that. And now that
Right.
person's giving you a call talking about how else can we do things, right?
Right.
And you guys are out in the field looking for value, right? So this
Mhm.
like addition of value to me is really, really interesting. I loved your question of, are we going to see a pre-AI era, post-AI era hurricane season this season? I'd be
Interesting.
really interested to see how that plays out.
I would be with, I'm glad you asked that too, because if I was to make a prediction, and so
Yeah.
far I'm pretty good at predictions on
So
this
far
show,
you're
I'm just
one for
saying,
one.
if we want to pull the tape, I would expect that if we have storms.
Yeah.
So first off, let's just say we hope that nothing comes and we have no claims, and we hope that we don't get to have a follow-up for
Right.
this. But if in the event that we do, and let's say again, it's in another part of Florida. Let's say that it hits
as it
somewhere else,
usually
but don't say where, because
There's no people living there.
yeah, please, yes. It goes through, what's it called, the Big Bend area, where there's barely any people. So anyway, I don't even want to wish it.
It's a deserted part of Florida. There's no physical properties.
Okay, so what I would guess that we would see is the carriers coming to us bragging about their time to close claims. That this is what it was in years past, and if the industry standards say it's 50 days or something to close a claim, that they've been able to shorten that to something like 9.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
and
Fast.
especially as people get more comfortable with these processes of like pay high and then, or say, I don't want to say that's kind of a little joke we say, pay high and buy. But like pay what you can and
Yeah.
like close the claim. And then if they need more, that's fine.
Yeah.
Reopen it and pay more.
Yeah.
Like that actually serves momentum.
Yeah.
Better and traction better with like keeping the claim on, because when people are like, oh, well, I'm going to wait, I want to see if this is approved. It's like, no, take the money and no, you can file for more. If you discover that there's more.
I
It's kind of been a little bit of a shift in handling it.
There's just it's really interesting in this, post ChatGPT world. It's interesting the things that come around annually to like see how much of a change it is, and also the things that are super emotional and super sucky process too. And if you think about super emotional things that the process has really sucked for most people, it's been insurance response to a major storm, and it's a year later. So it really is kind of an interesting case study.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have it this year, but
And I would say that's actually not the case. Most people actually do have very positive claims
Really?
experiences. Yeah. I mean, we pay millions of dollars in claims out. I mean, usually you should talk to some of the folks on your team
Yeah.
for the major one.
well, I was thinking beyond JWB.
Yeah.
JWB
Yeah.
clients. I was thinking
Yeah.
just like out, in the average normal general way,
You do hear the stories, yes,
Yeah.
yes, about that. But for the most part, I mean, claims adjusters are good, hardworking people who are trying to get folks back to a pre-loss condition. And I would say, we get, a handful a year of clients complaining about their claim process. And again, millions and millions of dollars that the carriers pay out to our clients every year who are very satisfied. But the issue is when you're happy with your claim, you're like, well, yeah, because that's what I paid for. Like, that's what I expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody feels like compelled to. So we actually, one of the things our team has talked about is we could probably do a better job of encouraging those people to go leave Google reviews for the carriers that have done a good job, because the only people that go leave Google reviews for insurance companies are the ones that are
Upset, like property management companies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
Okay, we have 10 questions and about 20 minutes to go on the show, so I feel like we should get into them.
Okay.
All right, ready? I'm just going to go in order. So if you have any more of these questions, put them in the Q&A.
Okay.
HTTNS, Can we get some insight on sinkhole exclusion clause versus a catastrophic ground collapse coverage in Florida policies?
Absolutely. So this is another situation where we had a broken system that was exploited in Florida, and we needed to have our legislators step in and fix this. So the way that the policy contract language previously was written, it put the burden on the insurance company to prove that there wasn't a sinkhole. So if part of your yard looked funny,
Yeah.
or you just like thought maybe because your neighbor had some issues, maybe there was something going on your property, the insurance company had to pay a geologist $5,000 to $10,000 to come out and do a geology soil sample study to eliminate the possibility of there being a sinkhole anywhere on your property. So first off, we insure the building, not the whole property. So that's part of it. So it just became an expensive. There was a lot of door knocking and stuff in this area and feeding them to attorneys and
in different parts of the state, not Jackson, we never really had to
this
deal
was
with this as
yeah.
much. But like I remember driving down Tampa and I would see billboard after billboard, sinkhole, call,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's a thing. Agents in our agency community and insurance agent community, like we talk about this. We've referenced it a lot when we were looking at fixing this roof thing and fixing this lawsuit abuse thing. So what they did is they changed the language, and so now it's called, instead of being called sinkhole coverage, it's called Florida catastrophic ground collapse coverage. And there are a couple of stipulations.
It's a mouthful.
That for you maybe. No thanks for me. There are a couple of stipulations that it needs to meet in order for coverage to apply, and they're very simple. It's like the first one is that there's damage to your home. So before the insurance company has to potentially pay out money, your home needs to be damaged. There needs to be sinkhole or activity that is visible to the naked eye. The city needs to declare that that area is a sinkhole, as they do when there are these big scary sinkholes that you see on the news. So when all of this, and this has probably been about 15 years ago that this was like the big thing. Agents and I have talked many times and we're like, okay, how many people were like screwed because of they didn't have the old form, they had the new form, and then they couldn't get their home repaired or whatever, like that the situation was bad for them because of this change. And I've yet to hear a single one. None.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of noise, but not a lot of signal.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, there were some really bad inadvertent victims of this, people that didn't understand.
Too much.
Too much? Okay.
We're gonna go.
The system is fixed, the news is good.
Good news only. Jack wants to
Good
know
news only.
how the sinkhole coverage is reflected in the policies they currently have right now.
The Florida catastrophic ground collapse coverage, and lenders in Florida do require that you carry it, you all have it.
Got it. And then
How's that?
HC also had a second question. Does JWB perform any type of geological testing before construction begins on properties? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
It's not
But
necessary.
I was gonna say, that's not out of the ordinary.
Right.
We'll see, just to add a little context, sometimes our commercial clients, if they're doing something in an area that has a reputation of something like that, they may be required to do it, but that's the only time we're seeing people proactively do like soil sample geological type stuff.
Cool. All right. Let's try to answer these a little quicker. I know that was a meeting. All right. Lee Bishop, the MVP, you may have heard of.
MVP.
Once the insurance reduction is established, how long does it take to be disseminated to the masses?
So they typically come out at renewals. And again, remember, like it's an average. So we're seeing a lot of it right now. We are still seeing some moderate rate increases, nothing like the doubling and tripling that we saw over the last couple of years. That has been completely course corrected, but we're seeing it now. And so how long did it take from when it passed? They said 18 to 24 months to start seeing it, and that was right on track.
Okay.
Is there, I've seen the statewide data on insurance, the number of rate decreases. Is there any way to get like Jacksonville data on rate increases or decreases?
I can get them carrier by carrier.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I always am hesitant to share this kind of stuff because I always feel like somebody's going to hear me say this and then their policy is going to go from like $600 to $700.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you don't. You're still like the jackpot person. This is for people that are paying $8,000 and now our policy has gone down to like $6,500. So it is a blended rate.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we are in Northeast Florida some of the highest benefactors of the rate decreases.
Yeah.
And there are some, I will include a teaser. The biggest carrier that you have for JWB clients has filed, I think it goes into effect in September, another rate decrease, which will be like the fourth one that they've had hit. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I got to keep writing hundreds of policies to catch up just to break even.
Love it.
So send us your referrals. We'll talk about that.
There we go.
There should be leave room for that at the end.
There's somebody here that wants that. All right. So Patron Centaurus, Michael Centaurus says, Whitney, should we proactively request a new rate evaluation after installing a new roof, rewiring electrical systems, upgrading plumbing, or installing a new HVAC system?
New roof, definitely give us a call and let us know. It's not going to necessarily mean that we should move your policy, but typically there can be, depending on how old your roof was before, a discount for that automatically. In addition to that, we want to have that information on your file so your carrier doesn't think that your roof that was 18 years old is now 19 and 20. And, you know, at the future point, that could affect you. I also want to say, because, you know, the question, should I reshop it every year? That's like the most common thing. And look, what our agency's philosophy is we keep our finger on the pulse of the industry. When we have a carrier or a trend that is outside the norm, we proactively reach out to clients as best we can. Look, if somebody's in the hospital or something, I can't guarantee we get to 100 of them, but there is a risk of re-underwriting. So we don't want a situation where somebody only goes up by like a couple $100. They get a new I mean, and we'll say in this example that couple $100 is like 600 to 800, and they're like, oh, well, let's see what we could do. Maybe we find one that's 700. So they're saving $100 to, you know, to offset a $200 increase. The carrier goes out and does an inspection. And remember, especially JWB clients, when you first got that insurance, your home was in the best primo, just property turn done, tenants just moved in. They may go out and you may have some tree limbs that are like a little so-so. Or you may have some, you know, your tenant may have some boxes stacked up by the back and which could set a, so there is something to be said for kind of flying under the radar and like stay in the status quo. Not to mention if there's ever a dispute of like when something happened, if you've had the same insurance company all that time, it makes that piece a little easier as well.
So new roof.
Roof, let us know. The other stuff you can let us know, but there are not premium bearing factors for electrical, plumbing, or HVAC.
Got it.
That only opens up eligibility for carriers.
Cool. Patriarch of the first family, Ken Naleen, says, one of our lenders required high-risk umbrella insurance. Recently, Ricci helped us get into the umbrella policy covering all 8 properties for much lower cost per property. Can you comment on the need for and availability of high-risk umbrella insurance?
Oh, I hope that this was part of the special pilot program that we're part of. We're one of only like 5 agents that just got access for it. You guys. This is a lot driven by you guys. It's been, I hope Denny's on the call still. It's been a big pain point for folks once they buy the 10th rental property, they're no longer eligible with like the main player of insurance in Florida. And like, listen, I don't make the underwriting guidelines. I know there is an option out there, but it was just a lot more expensive and painful to deal with. So we did just get a new carrier that's been almost a year in the making, us getting access to them. And so far it's going great. We can do those quotes in like 2 minutes. If you add another property, we can go online, do it in a portal. You don't have to do that renewal survey. That's one of the things that causes me a lot of anxiety. Here are clients that want these extra layer of liability. They're also super busy and they have to redo paperwork every year. That's a bad system. So that's a result of us looking for a better way to serve you guys. And I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for those kind words.
So is the high risk umbrella policy a part of the new potential carrier?
I think that when he says high risk, he just means having more than just the underlying, and correct me if I'm wrong, having more than just the 300 or the 500,000 that somebody has on their underlying policy.
Gotcha.
So it isn't uncommon that lenders, especially if they are not like a Bank of America type lender, that they'll say, hey, this person has a lot of exposure. We want them to have $1 million or a couple million of additional liability.
Oh, gotcha.
So if he's doing like a loan that's covering all 8 of his properties as a portfolio, for example, that's something that we will see.
Gotcha.
So as we saw the increase in need, we were like, all right, can we do any better? And luckily somebody from that carrier saw me speak on a panel. We stayed in touch. Here we are.
Got it. Wait, before we go too far, William Ramos wants to know, can you please share your contact information to refer to my customers?
So Ricci is RICCI, Ricci Insurance Group. We're at Ricci Insurance Group at all of the socials. RicciInsuranceGroup.com is our website. There's a little link on there that's an intake form that you click, get a quote. Bree on my team has done a wonderful job working. Actually, Eisman just gave me a nice compliment. He just worked with her. She's Brianna, BRIANNA at RicciInsuranceGroup.com. I'm Whitney at RicciInsuranceGroup.com. Info at RicciInsuranceGroup.com. Lots of ways to find us. And thank you.
I just put it in the chat. RicciInsuranceGroup.com. Ricci is RICCI.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep going with the questions then. Milady Jack Chatta asks, can you address the payout record of the companies? On one side is coverage and the other is payout. I have heard/read some horror stories with the damage from flooding in South Florida and widely different treatment from various insurance companies.
So
You kind of mentioned this earlier.
yeah. So, I want to specifically talk because she said flooding, and that we hate this, guys. We do a really good job. We try in my agency and being very clear. And I know your people all know flood is defined by rising water caused by weather. You have to have flood insurance for that. You guys, most of the stuff you do is in non-high risk flood zones.
Right.
Doesn't mean it can't flood,
Right.
but generally speaking, it's going to fall under like the maintenance expense amount that you guys prep your
Right.
your owners for.
Mhm.
It's generally not going to be a flood so severe that somebody's going to default on their mortgage, which
Right.
is why they don't require them to carry it. That's what most of the stuff. There was a stat about some huge astronomical amount of citizens policies that were closed without payment, that were denied.
Mhm.
And look, I'm the first one to be like, Citizens is not my best friend. Like, I do not try to work with them. But it was a really unfair article because they were opening claims for flood. The person didn't have flood. They're closing it. They're not paying, nor should they. They didn't collect premium to insure against that peril. So we do pay attention to when carriers want to give pushback about paying for things that they should be paying for. But I absolutely side with the carriers. If they did not collect an insurance premium to insure against that peril, then they should not pay that claim. If they are paying that claim, then that means they're charging more to everybody else who's paying the fair premium.
True.
But yes, as part of overall carrier evaluation, we do look at their claims paying and their claims handling.
I saw Michael Santoris ask this in the chat earlier. Do you carry flood insurance in your properties here in Jacksonville?
Oh gosh, guys, I've gone back and forth. I know some years, so when I can get it really affordably
Yeah.
and I'm feeling like I can fit it in my family budget,
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Fair.
And then I've had times where I'm like, you know what, I'm self-insuring across the board, increase all my deductibles and take off the flood insurance. And we're going to take that strategy this year. But I am hyper aware of what that means and the risk that I'm transferring back to myself if I don't.
Got it. A couple of questions here on, do you work in other states, Whit?
And we do work in other states, but it depends what it is. We'll tell you real quick if we're going to be a good fit or not.
Okay. There you go. That's your answer, Arthur. That's your answer, Greg Roberts. All right, let's keep going. Mike Foster asks, Mike, good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Hi, Whitney. Given Florida's annual insurance threat, would you recommend that JWB clients? Oh, this is who was asking.
Oh, okay.
Would you? Or we just answered that.
Okay, wrong Mike.
Purchasing flood insurance. Now, Michael Santoris. Whitney, in 2024,
yes.
I was able to lower my premiums by proactively agreeing to mediation on all my policies. Can you elaborate on what this means and what your experience is?
Yeah. So I loved this discount when it came out. So it was American Integrity was the carrier that did it. And they proactively, when we didn't know what was going to happen with tort reform, they came out with this really unique discount. And they said, hey, if you agree to go to binding arbitration, which is like the same kind of policy contract language when you get a cell phone or cable or like any other thing, they have this very similar language. But by you agreeing to go to binding arbitration, what you're saying is I'm not going to sue my insurance company. And therefore, it's removing that risk of litigation that we talked about. So they gave a nice discount for that.
Mhm.
So they did that for many years. They actually everybody who had it is grandfathered in. They still have it. Tort reform was so effective. About a year ago, they got rid of the discount for new policyholders because they're like, we're not getting sued anyway. Why are we giving a discount for it?
Interesting. Yeah.
But they are in such growth mode and they want to get more market share. And again, the tort reform has just been so wildly successful that I think it's September later this year, they're bringing that back. So we will be able to put that on. And that's something that our team looks for proactively on those renewals. We had a very high portion of our book of business opt into that. And I'm here for it. That is a very good correlation. You're agreeing not to sue us, then we agree to give you the discount for not suing us.
Interesting. All right, cool. Lisa Thompson asks, pros and cons of having master policy versus insuring each property independently.
Oh gosh, I wish so much that the answer was that it was better for you to have. Don't you wish that too, Greg?
Ew.
In Florida, Northeast Florida, especially if your property can pass underwriting, it is just more cost effective to have them on individual policies.
Okay.
If we were having this conversation in Ohio, I would be like, oh, I could save you a ton, get you much better value, better contract, so much easier for you to schedule them all on there.
Difference is like, I might be speaking out of turn, but it's
huge.
like the cost of insurance for a JWB property on an individual policy is like $700, and that same policy might be like $2,000.
Yeah, or
on
even
master
more. What did
policy.
we had that group with that?
We've been on a number of calls
They're
together.
like, what how are you doing this? And we're like, we know it's a lot more work for
It
everybody,
makes
but
no
it's worth
sense,
it.
but yeah.
So not the move to get.
Don't go master policy in Florida.
Got it. Jag has another question. Reports from 2020 and 2021 indicated that over 48,000 properties in Duval County could face substantial flood risk within 30 years. Is this another? All right. More recent data suggests roughly 24.4% of properties in Jacksonville have a high risk of flooding. As you blue sky, what might insurance property and property price impact in the midterm?
So first thing, flood is underwritten as a different risk than wind and fire and all of the other perils. So and they do change the flood maps as they deem that the risks are different. So what that might look like, an area that, a lot of Jacksonville Beach, for example, is flood zone X, where you're not required to carry flood insurance. So those are kind of the more obvious areas that I think would be more potentially impacted by that. I do not have a crystal ball to see how that would play out, but I would just say if it's something that you're concerned with, there's a lot of peace of mind that can come from a couple $100, couple hundred optional bucks to throw on your premium.
Yeah.
That would be my route for that extra peace of mind if it's something that's keeping you up at night.
And I would go to the data too. Those flood maps are there. Obviously those flood maps are informed by some of the same data that you were just sharing there. And the flood maps are what ultimately banks make decisions on as to when they give mortgages and things of that nature. So and this is what JWB does, right? When it's in a flood zone for our own properties, we would have flood insurance. However, JWB properties, almost without exception, are not in flood zones. Then there are varying degrees of how close are you to being in a flood zone. And so that's where you can look at and say, well, listen, I am nowhere near anywhere close to being in a flood zone. Does it make sense for me to get flood insurance? Probably not. If you're right next door to a flood zone and you technically are not required, well, then maybe that makes a little bit more sense. JWB properties are typically very far from it.
And I'll say, look, I'm a professional risk manager, so I'm never going to say somebody in Florida doesn't need flood insurance. But I will say that what is the risk we're really looking at here? We're looking at water coming into the home, right? We've talked a lot about JWB property management and their response time and their access to vendors, right? So a home, if you did have that water damage, I think it is fair to say that would probably be a much lower event because it's mitigated early. Like the difference between a water damage claim treated in a day and treated in a week could be tens of thousands of dollars of difference. So we just had a lunch and learn last week with this company, actually. I won't give them a shout out, but with this company, unless they're watching, then shout out. But their average water damage claim they have is $2,000. And they do business all over Northeast Florida down through Orlando. And so that's what a typical, if you respond in time, dry out cost is about $2,000.
Yeah.
We're at an hour. That's all the questions we're going to get to.
We didn't even get to talk about when we hung out last.
I was gonna say, Whit.
Okay.
After thanking everybody, you had mentioned something like you walked in here, we're like, oh my God, the three of us together.
Yeah.
And like a really fond memory came up. What was the last time that we hung out, Rich? Oh, Whit. Richie.
Okay.
Whit,
Do you remember when it was? He doesn't.
I remember what
it was at the summit, right?
Yeah.
So it was at the summit.
Oh, I know. We went out afterwards.
It's all great.
It was like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm gonna
mac
go.
and cheese flights.
Yes, we went to that place and I was like, they should sell us a mac and cheese plate. So let's just get one of each. Or whatever. Get so much fun with your dad. And then you were trying to act like, oh, it's been a long day. You were going to go home. And we pressured you.
Yeah,
like
you did.
The whole community is going to be there. You had so much fun.
I had a blast.
So this part, when I was driving over here, I can't remember if I have like embellished this memory or if this is real. So I'm going to need you to be the truth. Okay. So he did run up ahead. Right?
Yes, that's right.
And he was like, they're waiting on me. I need to make sure they're here. So he literally ran, right? Okay. So when we walked in, it was only like 2 minutes later. Was Pablo or was not Pablo going around and salsa dancing and singing like la 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 bamba?
Yes. No, he was.
Yeah.
And he
like
nailed it.
The place singing. And we were like, how did he even already get up here on the microphone, like going all around, weaving in and out of all the
Here's
people?
the story. Last time.
Time for your stories.
Last time that we all hung out, it was the end of summit. Gregg is a raging introvert, so he is completely drained. And we're gonna go grab like a bite to eat real quick and go back. We figured out that Whit and her teammate were at this like gastro pub. So we went over. Gregg's dad, me, Whitney, and your teammate's name?
Alyssa.
And Alyssa was there. We're all like, oh, this is a nice little wrap up. No big deal. Pablo's got karaoke after. Gregg's going home because it's not his deal. All of a sudden, we're like 2 beers into it, I look at Greg, he looks at his dad, he goes, "You're driving, Pop, right?" So Greg's coming to karaoke, and I'm like, "Oh my God, let's go." I know that I got to get over there because I know that normally karaoke night doesn't start until somebody makes a fool of themselves
La, 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 la.
early on. So I take off running. I get ahead by 2 blocks, walk into karaoke night like Kevin Bacon and Footloose, like request La Bamba. You guys walk in, and Greg, who had promised to stay for 1 song, ended up staying for like an hour.
Oh my God, with
Singing.
the permanent
With a-
smile.
It was so good.
Like, you just had like this grin.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
That's why, Summit brings the best out of us. And like, I need friends around me to help escape my own shell. And everybody was a part of that.
It
It
was
was
so
great.
fun. It was so
Speaking
fun.
of friends, we had 90+ people on today. Thank you so
Wow.
much for taking an hour of your day to come be with us. We love that. Summer's done. I feel like schools are back in session, so people are back on the Natural Average Investor Show. We love having you here. We love the questions. We love the value. Whit, the value you bring is obvious. You bring the folks and the energy
Thank you.
and the
Thank you
stories.
very much.
and the
Thank you,
data.
everybody
We
that
love
joined.
having
The
you.
good news.
And the good.
And if I could share one more thing, please,
Please.
before you cut me off. Okay, so before you cut me off.
Okay,
So
cut you off again.
we are incredibly grateful. We've built almost our whole book of business based on referrals. And you may remember this when you originally launched the show, like in 2019. Is that when we did it? Or was it early 2020?
January 2020.
So we were talking, we did the recording over there, and we were talking about all the charity you do. And I mean, you guys were like a big motivator, a big inspirational partner to me of why we launched our agency's charity referral program. So we've been teasing since 2020 when we launched. The total has been over $70,000 have been donated, right?
No
Cool,
way.
right?
No
Right?
news.
So I thank you. But I bring this up because this quarter, every quarter we spotlight a new charity or nonprofit that's been nominated by or is important to somebody in our community. And for all of the referral business that we close from everybody, we make a financial donation. So this quarter is JWB Cares.
That is amazing.
So it's just very timely that I'm here on the show. You guys, I know you have the golf tournament that's
We do.
coming up next month, which is going to be a really good time. If anybody's local, please go to that. And also just know we feel that you choose who you do business with, and know that all referrals that we get this quarter will be increasing our support of JWB Cares.
You better go and call Whitney Ricci Insurance Group right now. Help us all win. We got some big things. We want to help homeowners in Jacksonville. We got 8 brand new homeowners that are going to walk into their first home, courtesy of support like Ricci Insurance Group and you all. So we're excited.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been fun. Oh, I need a nap. There's a
All
lot.
right, but before you take a nap, Whitney,
Okay.
I have one final piece of advice for the audience.
Okay.
What is it, Greg?
Don't be
average. See you guys on the next
See
episode.
ya.